Hello everyone, welcome back to Kevin Reviews. I just watched Grave Encounters, this time on YouTube. This is from Digital Interference Productions and Twin Engine Films. It's directed and written by the Vicious Brothers, that includes Colin Minihan and Stuart Ortiz. The cast includes Sean Rogerson, Ashleigh Gryzko, uh, Merwin Mondesir, Juan Riedinger, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Mackenzie Gray, as well as additional cast including Benjamin Wilkinson. So I don't know when I saw Grave Encounters. I think this was maybe late 2010s or mid 2010s. I'm not exactly 100% certain on that. But I remember seeing the trailer for it, and it it definitely didn't look like it was going to be it wasn't going to be released in theaters. It never released in theaters. But I remember the trailer quite a bit because I of the idea of the location, especially. And I don't know. I was starting to get into horror stuff around that time. I think the first horror film I saw. I think I'll maybe get into that later. But as I like a legit supernatural horror film that I saw. But I'll get into that later. But in any case, I remember the trailer looking kind of interesting. I mean, I was just kind of going on YouTube at times to look at all kinds of trailers, horror trailers, see what kind of pops up that kind of piques my interest a little bit. And Grave Encounters was one of them. And granted, it wasn't like didn't look high budget. It looked kind of something that was shot within within a modest budget or low budget, but it did look kind of interesting, especially where it's located in this asylum, this psychiatric hospital, this abandoned psychiatric hospital. Although there are times in the trailers where it did look pretty fake or weak or didn't look all that scary. Other times it seemed like it. I don't know. It did spark an interest. I don't know. I don't know if I can exactly explain why, but I'm guessing it's mostly from the location. But this film did get. It only had $100,000 in its budget, and gross worldwide, it's made over 4 million, enough to spawn a sequel, Grave Encounters 2, which wasn't widely received by a lot of people, including fans of the original. Um, and there's already talks about a reboot. I don't know if it's going to be a cinematic reboot of the film, but there is a plan. There is talks about doing another Grave Encounters. I even like the name, the idea of Grave Encounters. I mean, this is in Grave Encounters is supposed to be based off like, um, the ghost hunting shows, like Ghost Hunters, for example, is the one I remember seeing. And I didn't watch a ton of it, but I know the kind of idea behind it, and but I've seen a couple episodes, and I enjoy like the locations and stuff. Even I admit I'm not sure if I really buy that kind of reality show, and I'm not into reality shows that much. Um, I mean, I used to watch like American Idol back when I was younger, like in the 2000s, but then I just kind of dropped out, and I never really watched a lot of reality shows. So yeah, I didn't really care. I didn't continue watching it, but it was popular enough, and there has been a number of ghost hunting TV shows that I can't really think of, but I'm sure there are plenty of them. I think especially ever since uh, I don't know. I think I would say the Blair Witch Project was a big part of it, as well as the Paranormal Activity that kind of spawned, helped the found footage stuff and ghost hunting and stuff. But I'm sure it's probably even there's plenty of other ghost hunting type shows that predate some of them. I think anyway. Um, but yeah, why don't we get into it? This is my review of Grave Encounters. So the story in Grave Encounters, if you've not seen the trailer, this is a story about a group of ghost hunters led by Lance Preston, played by Sean Rogerson, who is at this Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital. And fun fact, this is a hospital. This is a legit hospital but it's not called that. It's not called that. It's like it's located in Canada. I think the setting takes place in Washington, but I'm not 100% certain. I didn't look that up, unfortunately. But yeah, this is the Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital. It's been abandoned for about 50. Been started off in 1895 and closed at 1963. So, and there was a lot of apparently, supposedly paranormal activity there. So they go in to investigate. And unfortunately, when they investigate, they actually run across some ghosts. Now that's basically the plot. It's kind of basic horror film. There's a little bit more to it involving. Um, it is pretty much a generic horror film, but for some reason, this is one I come back quite often to rewatch, or maybe just have in the background. I don't know. It's strange because I find some charm into this, and maybe because this is supposed to be a mockumentary in a way. Not I'm not sure if I would say mockumentary, but it's more like kind of a satire, more kind of tongue in cheek sort of take on how people view um, ghost hunting shows, or like behind the scenes, like can we actually take these ghost hunting shows seriously? And if that was the case, in a way, I find that kind of endearing. It's kind of similar to, say, I don't know if you watch the show, but Total Drama Island. It is this that's animated specifically, but I like the idea. It's pretty much Survivor, as well as some other reality shows that I can't place, and they kind of just have fun with it. And it's animated, and there's a lot you can do with that. It doesn't feel It's scripted, yet it doesn't always entirely feel scripted, and it actually uses humor and funny challenges and stuff like that. So I don't know. I kind of enjoy that because it doesn't because I mean it's because it's animated, and I don't know, maybe that's the case. I like when it kind of pokes when certain shows poke fun at other reality shows. I think that's just kind of interesting because I don't know, just but yeah. In any case, I'm getting off track. But yeah, I find this kind of fun to watch every once in a while, like when I'm bored. Um, it's not like really all that cinematic, or I wouldn't even argue it's that quite scary. But the one advantage this film has is its atmosphere and location. I think, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I think personally for me, I find the idea of haunted hospitals, or abandoned or haunted hospitals, the scariest place to be. I mean, you got, I don't know, the Winchester House, the LaLaurie House. I'm sure you got those houses; those are supposed to be considered, haunted and whatnot. But I think with hospitals, that's more scary. I think because especially with involving this particular hospital's history. Because back then, especially in the late 1800s, maybe even further back, and even to this, going forward, the patients who had mental disorders, or were kind of just there wasn't a lot of help, a lot of research into studying, into learning about mental disabilities, and there was not really a lot of respect given to them. So oftentimes they're kind of just dropped off into this hospital to just kind of resume their days, till and sometimes sometimes I think there was some experimentation. I don't have all the information, but I remember a class that I took years ago that talked about, that was kind of the case for people with disabilities. They weren't treated well. They were kind of just left there, just taking pills, eating, sleeping, or going crazy, and that's basically it. They were just kind of locked away to be forgotten, and that's pretty messed up when you think about it. Nowadays, it's a lot better, in a way, but yeah, I mean, back then it was it was downright cruel in a way. But in any case, back to the story. But the film does kind of start off not exactly the introduction of the crew. It kind of does a little bit, but it actually starts with the producer or the director. Benjamin Wilkinson played Jerry Jerry, I know his first name's Jerry. I don't remember the last name, but he kind of tells you the idea about what about about the crew, like what they've been doing, that they started this channel, that they started this, this not channel, they started this show that has been going on for about 5 episodes, and then when they get to number 6, which I mean, if you know the number, the triple digit 6, I mean, yeah, it's kind of, you know, it kind of it doesn't bode well. It's a bad omen, I guess. In any case, he talks about like all their shows, like how they're kind of ahead of their time. So there's no date in which they started ghost hunting exactly, but apparently they've been doing this for not that long. Um, it's questionable, really. And of course, but they said that Jerry said that they got like 72 hours of footage, so they were trying to figure out, and that plays it to the movie, and they basically make it into a movie, even though it's not. He says it's not supposed to be kind of a movie, or it's supposed to be real. So it's playing with the whole idea that this is like Blair Witch Project, and where at the time it was advertised that what you're seeing was real indeed. Not the case for this one, really, even if it wants to play it up like it is. So anyway, I still, I like it. It's definitely not like a groundbreaker, but it's something I find finding some charm a little bit. And I just, again, I think the atmosphere, especially, and the location where it is, it's really creepy. There's a lot of walls, ceiling, just kind of mold, paint peeled away. There's wheelchairs in the hallway. There's beds knocked over. There's like a scene involving a tub, like a bunch of tubs, some of them knocked over. Where with one patient, there was like one history where this patient, I don't know what, I can't say it, but I guess I'll say nerfed nerfed herself. If you get what I mean, then yeah. Um, but in any case, yeah, there's a lot of great locations that is pretty creepy. And the hospital, I think, is supposed to be pretty big. It's like 80 acres of big. So, how are the characters? The characters are pretty much more often like kind of one note, but still are interesting, are still fun to follow. I mean, Lance Preston is a determined producer, and leader of the group, who really wants to try to find ghosts, even though it's obviously fabricated, or seems to be fabricated. But he wants to see something real, see any ghosts. Of course, that bites him and his crew back quite a big time. Um, and but he is kind of selfish. He's kind of greedy. He would do anything just so he can get the shot. He can get you know, great great footage, and he does come up with pretty stupid ideas, like the idea that he's gonna lock his crew inside for 8 hours during the night, and that backfires entirely. Um, the other characters, yeah, most often not one note. There's not a ton to them, but they're kind of fun to follow a bit, because especially if it's just a found footage, it's not meant to be that deep or complex. And if this was a cinematic film, I'd probably be a bit more critical about it, but not this time. I think they're fine for what they are. It's basically part of the show. Um, would I have liked to have seen more to them? Fine, yeah. Ashleigh Gryzko, I think, is one I wish they kind of expanded on a bit more, because she's supposed to be the cult specialist, but yeah, she doesn't really do a ton other than she has a really great scream, in the film several times. It's really good. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton. I wish they kind of did. So, um, yeah. But I mean, again, fine character and all. Then you got TC. TC is the cameraman of the group, and I think he's fine. He has a little bit of backstory, and he has a wife and kids, so obviously it's going to feel bad for him. You're going to kind of feel bad for him. He's kind of a little bit of the smart one, but he's not. He's pretty jerky, or he's very insensitive. He actually even berates, not well, not directly because he doesn't know this at the time. He actually berates the spirits. Like he goes into a kitchen area and he just says, "Cook my dinner, B word," if you know what I mean. Um, so he really kind of just does. He just kind of finds this all fun and games until actual paranormal stuff happens. Uh, then you have Matt, played by uh, Juan Riedinger. And I forgot to mention, TC was played by Merwin Mondesir. But Matt, played by Juan Riedinger, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the tech guy. He's the tech specialist. He definitely knows his tech. We don't know a ton more about him. He kind of acts kind of like the cool doing this thing, like, yeah, in front of the camera, like insane kind of catchphrases like boom. Um, Similar to another character I won't go into right now, but yeah, he's all right, but he does kind of disappear or he's not in the film that much as you think. And then, of course, the last character we got is Mackenzie Gray, who plays Houston. Houston is an actor, but he's supposed to be playing as this psychic who actually can tell what happens in certain rooms. And of course, you just kind of see it. It's over the top, kind of funny. Um, but when it cuts the cuts, he kind of just acts normal and whatnot. Other times he actually plays off like he's supposed to be still the psychic until that goes out the window pretty quick. Um, but I don't know. He's kind of fun. He's not really that funny necessarily, but he's enjoyable character for what he's supposed to be and what he isn't really. So there's that. There's also a funny moment I would mention. Like I forgot to mention. Lance would even try to talks to a gardener at one point, and he bribes him to basically make something up top of his head, and it's pretty funny. That's like one of the best parts of the movie. As for the scares are roughly hit and miss. Sorry, like cats knocking over stuff. Um, yeah, but in any case, yeah, There are there are some scares that are pretty predictable. There are other scares that are actually pretty good, and some of the effects the on some of the patients, the ghost patients, are okay, decent to otherwise a little cringy. Yeah, and she knocked something over again. That's Tally, by the way. Anyway, um, yeah. So I lost track. Thank you, Tally. What was I getting at? The but yeah, other scares are pretty good. But there's like a moment where there's one patient, and you can see this in the trailer if you haven't seen the trailer. But there's a moment where they see a female patient in the corner. When she turns, she has her face contorts, and you can obviously tell it's pretty much CG'd, um, or some effects that they use to make that face contort like that. And they only do that like one or two more times. But there are some good scares. Like there's I don't want to go too much into it, but there are some good moments. There are other ones that are just kind of okay. It does kind of play along with like the paranormal activity stuff. You got to kind of pay attention in certain areas, but it's not that deep or complex for unlike paranormal activity. But still, I think a lot of it is just the hospital, and the hospital location and how it's shot. It is shot in found footage, as a found footage film. There's not, if you're worried about shaky camera, there's not a lot of times where that happens, except for certain situations that really do require it. Um, like there's a character that would fall down the stairs at one point, so that is needed, especially because he's holding the camera. Um, but yeah, there's not a ton of shaky cam, so I don't think you're going to be too bothered by it, as far as I know. Um, and if there are complaints, like I said, I think I would have liked a little bit more on the characters. I think it could have been expanded more. Maybe again, Ashleigh kind of becoming the occult specialist, like we know a little bit more, especially Lance Preston. If we know a little bit more about him, and as well as the rest of the crew. I think in a way, I almost wish the beginning where the producer Jerry wasn't included, because I know what it's trying to do, but you know, it is played as a movie. I kind of wished it was more about like maybe the last episode before they took on took on episode 6, like they were doing episode 5, and we kind of see how they think how things go, and maybe get an idea of what their lives are like before they before they enter the hospital and before things start going running amok. That would have been interesting. um, and maybe you can at least care for them. In a way, you kind of care for them enough because eventually they start to grow, especially Lance, because he starts to grow more as a leader, protector. But once it gets closer to the end, it's pretty abysmal. Not abysmal in a sense that it's bad, but it's abysmal like the situation is pretty bad. A pretty bad outcome overall. This hospital really plays with your mind. The ghost really plays with your mind. It it is pretty crazy what they kind of do with the hospital and like the environment. And I won't go into it because it's pretty surreal. Um, and even kind of a bit of foreshadowing early on. But yeah, it is. I think it is quite a fun film. It's not groundbreaking. It's nothing like that overall, but I think this is one I think you would have a good time, especially if you're a horror fan. If you're not a horror fan, I don't know how much this I doubt you'd be interested in this one. But I mean, if you have YouTube, and especially have an account on YouTube, you can watch this for free, and that's with ads unless you have YouTube Premium or something. And and especially if you're at the right age, because it is age restricted, by the way. Um, yeah, I say this is quite a fun kind of waste your time, generic horror film that does at least play, um, uses a little bit tongue in cheek, mocking ghost hunting shows, and as well as good atmosphere, good location, um, and a pretty interesting ending that eventually carries on to the sequel. Um, I'll probably watch the sequel if it's available. I'm sure it is. Maybe if not, then it might be a while before I actually have to review that one. But yeah, I say this is a good time. I would give this, I think, three and a half stars. I think because it's one I come back to very often. I wouldn't go 4 because it's definitely not quite as cinematic, but it's a fun movie. I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's a fun movie. It's not there to make you think too much, but it's it's just a fun horror. I think it's just a you know, fun horror film, a fun supernatural horror film, found footage horror film, exactly. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Grave Encounters? Leave in the comments below. Give a like or dislike the review if you wish. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you can be updated on any future reviews. And I will see you guys later in the next review. Bye.